Earlier today, I went to talk trans with boxing promoter Kellie Maloney for a chat and a bite to eat of food we didn't eat. All right, babe. How are you?
Yeah, nice to meet you. I've been looking forward to this.
Have you?
Read quite a lot about you.
What? Oh no, bad? All bad?
No, not some is bad, some's good. Depends on what side of the spectrum you want to come from.
Yeah.
They're your views.
Yeah. Do you think it's important that people should express their views?
Yeah, I believe in free speech. I believe that we should be able to say what we want, and by meeting and talking, because I'm sure your views and my views are totally different, we will maybe come to some common ground at the end of this conversation. Well,
we both grew up in religious families. You grew up in an Irish Catholic family, didn't you? And I grew up in a religious family, so I'm sure we share some sort of internal workings from our
some
past.
beatings from the religious orders.
Tell me, so you said you started to feel different about 16, is that right?
No, I felt very different from the age of 3, but I didn't know what it was.
3?
It wasn't until I read the story of April Ashley when I was about 12 years old, and then I realised what I was. But that day they had all different terminology for what we have today. The world just moves on and wording changes.
God, I can't even remember being 3. I probably can somewhere. But so what did you feel at 3? You felt like you wanted to...
No, I just felt different. I didn't know how I felt. I just didn't feel like the other boys, shall we say. But I, obviously being born a boy and having an Irish father...
Trad dad.
That was very sport-minded and, you know, in his own way religious. I just went along with what was expected.
And then, and you lived your whole life essentially, because it took you up to 60.
Up to nearly 60.
Really?
Yeah.
So talk me through how you lived till 60 without...
Well, I saw, as I say, the article of April Ashley. I saw how the British press totally destroyed her and pulled her down from where she was when they discovered in her previous life she was a male. I also read the story of Caroline Crossley, who was the first Bond girl that they discovered was a trans woman, and how that destroyed her and she lost. And I just swore to myself I would never ever admit to it. I would fight it. And obviously, as my career grew in boxing, and you managed the heavyweight champion of the world, I didn't think it was quite a good idea to broadcast how I felt. And so I was always, shall I say, fighting myself, living a double life. I had 2 people in one body.
And what impact does that have on you emotionally? So if you're, you know, it's like anything, if you're trying to keep something secret, and I suppose it must happen with lots of people that I've got a mate who couldn't come out to his father because he's gay and his dad was an earl, so he couldn't tell his dad, you know, essentially, I'm not going to be able to provide you with some sons and heirs, and they ended up not speaking for a while. So what does it do to you emotionally, not being able to...
I think mentally it sort of destroys you, but you try to build a life that you can live in. And I was very lucky, you know, I had family and I enjoyed what I'd done. The boxing was if I hadn't had boxing, I think it might have been a different story. You know, I enjoyed that. I mean, I enjoyed doing the deals. I just enjoyed that. It wasn't a job, it was a passion. But part of me wishes I could have done it as Kellie, because I think I'd have been a much better manager and promoter.
Why is that?
Because I think I'd have been more understanding. I think because I was fighting myself, I was a very aggressive and angry little man. You know, made lots of comments I shouldn't have made.
But you probably have to be angry and aggressive when you're dealing with big mega bucks world heavyweight champions and trying to sort out their stuff.
You know, you can always stay a little bit different to the other sharks in the pool.
Should a trans boxer be able to box another? You know, should a trans...
We're going to go. Why not just ask the question about trans women in sport? It's much easier than
no, because I'm interested. Because in boxing, it's different,
no,
right?
I don't know the answer to that. But in boxing, I do not think so. There are certain sports I would say yes. Other sports I would say no. Boxing is definitely one where I don't think it should happen. Trans men, should they be allowed to box men? That should be their choice. But they shouldn't be allowed to box women either, because obviously their body's pumped full of testosterone.
Yeah. So which sports would you go for? Which sports get the Kellie thumbs up?
Darts, snooker.
Darts and snooker. Non-contact sports then?
Yeah, definitely non-contact sports. You know, at the moment it's still a minefield. And if I'm honest, I'm trying to read my way through that minefield, because one day I read, yes, it's okay to take athletics, another day someone will say no. So it's one of the times I hate to say this, but I sit on the fence.
For me, so there's two issues. You see Leah Thomas, who's not a fully transitioned female, who was a male up until recently, beating a lot of biologically female swimmers.
That's again where I probably differ to the trans community. I don't see, when you're in transition, that's very difficult. I don't think you should be able to take part in any sport until you've fully transitioned, you've lived in that body for so many years, and the hormones have taken, then they should be medically examined. I think that's where we're wrong. The science world are not taking someone at certain age levels and measuring them against biological women.
Yeah, because you look at the girl who came 11th in that situation. You see all these stuff of athletics in America in the sprints and stuff like that. There's lots of girls who've been training their entire lives to try and succeed, and you've got transgender athletes, male to female transgender athletes coming in and taking away female opportunities.
But let's be honest, how many transgender athletes are there?
Not many.
There's
more.
And they're used as a football to kick around, to abuse the community. What we need is proper scientific evidence from both sides. Both sides need to come around the table instead of using social media to attack each other. Both sides need to sit down and discuss it like adults and let the scientists come up with the answers.
But in the meantime, should there not be like an open category or something, so you can have
an open category would be fine. No, I don't think there'd be a problem with an open category. Then they can choose. But it's just a very hard subject, and I do feel for anyone that is trans and they are into their sport, because it is very hard, because they do feel isolated.
Yeah, and I think that everybody feels, well, obviously not everybody, because you can't speak for everybody, but the vast majority of people feel compassion for everybody else and respect and understanding for the decisions adults make. What are your thoughts on? So you said you were 3 when you began to notice something different. What are your thoughts on what would be an appropriate age of consent for kids to start, or young adults to start saying, right, I think I'm in the wrong body? Again,
that's the choice of the family of the child.
But it's not the choice of the family of the child a lot, because what's happening is kids are going into school, certainly in America, and it's happening more and more here, and saying I'm in the wrong body, and the teachers are letting them live as a different kid in school as they are at home. So the family is not always involved.
Well, no, I don't think that's happening where they live at a certain thing at home and a certain thing at school, because obviously the school will tell the parents how the child is behaving in school, so the parent would know from day one. I've always said this when I do my diversity talks, and I've chatted to families. If the child comes out and says that, just let the child, as if it's natural. The child will find its own way and will be truthful, and if it is a true trans child, that will come through. If it's not, then it will not come through.
Puberty blockers, which is what is the option that you've got there, which are Lupron, which is
I'm not an expert on that subject.
No, but I'm just we're clear that this science, as you say, getting the doctors together, this science is quite it's very new.
Well, some people say the puberty blockers are reversible. Some say they're not reversible. So once again, we have this dispute. Again, the medical field have to come together and issue a proper paper that will guide the families, I believe.
But I'm with you, but puberty blockers are used to chemically castrate rapists in America, so I imagine they're not that reversible. It's quite new. So in terms of kids, do you understand that, do you think that the explosion in trans kids now...
When you say explosion, it's a small minority. The way you're making it, everyone's going to wake up and be trans the next day. It's not going to happen. It doesn't happen like that. That child will know there's something different with them, and hopefully their family will support them, and that's the best you can hope for. I knew, but I had no one to tell at that age.
Yeah, but I would say you're probably more of an exception than the rule, Do you know what I mean?
I don't know. What do you mean by that?
Well, you know, you lived a very full life, and then you know, obviously you struggled with what you were struggling with, but you made a decision at a period in your life where you would go, you've experienced a great deal. I just find it really hard to believe that a child who hasn't experienced anything really yet, they're not even independent from their parents, they've not lived a full enough life to really know who they are, can have that capacity to think. And certainly in terms of surgery and stuff like that, irreversible surgery.
You can't have surgery till you're 18, I believe, in this country.
Yeah, no.
So, I mean, it's not as if a child that is 4 or 5 says, oh, I feel I'm a boy, I'm a girl. They're not going to have surgery the next day. They've still got a long way to go to that surgery. And they have to go through a number of medical tests. They have to go through a number of psychologists, you know. So it's a long journey. It's a long, painful journey for that person. If I could have my life again, and I was born today, yeah, I would transition a lot earlier.
You would?
Yeah, I think I've missed out a lot. I've had a very full life. I've had a good life, you know. I had a nice family, but deep down, at the end, I was destroying my family, and I was destroying myself and my friends around me because I was living a lie.
Yeah, so I get that, and I totally encourage and support your transition. I just think it's very different from a child doing it with the mental capacity children have. I mean, I still don't make that smart decisions, and I wasn't even making smart decisions until my mid-20s. And they're saying a lot about the development of the male brain, that male brain doesn't really kick in properly until he's about 27.
But we have a female brain in a male body.
You've got a female brain in a male body. Yeah, you do, that's fine, but not when...
But it was there, well, I haven't had a brain transplant, so my brain's been there all the time.
Yeah. But a lot of, as I'm saying, 80% of these kids that are left alone and are not encouraged to transition turn out to be either gay or lesbian.
But there are charities and there are support groups that will help them children and help them families. And I'm sure that some of them that have got started on that journey may have realised it's not exactly the journey they want, and they've stopped. But some have gone all the way and have found real peace in their life and happiness. Exactly.
But what do we do with the ones that have taken drastic medical steps and then regret that?
That's a very small minority if you check the figures on that.
Is it?
Yeah.
Well, Kira Bell would suggest not, and there would, you know, the Tavistock Clinic is now being closed down, isn't it, as a result of some of the practices that
because they've changed how they're operating. There's more regional clinics being opened, and the world will keep changing as we get more young people. You know, people see themselves different, and as long as we respect each other as human beings, what does it matter what we call ourselves? Respect as human beings is more important than a label stuck on somebody.
I don't know whether it's respect that we should be after or whether it's tolerance that we should be after.
Well, a little bit of both then, shall we say.
Well, there's a lot of people I don't respect at all, and but I'll tolerate them, and I won't, but I don't respect them. And I suppose if we're talking about individuality and you're saying that we're all individuals, I agree with you. But then why then does the LGBTQ++ lobby Batman sign, ! Just decide to lump everybody, gay, lesbian, transgender, bisexual, two-spirit, all into one community? Do you think it's not being used as a way of taking minority groups and exploiting their vulnerabilities to push a political agenda?
I don't really know, because I'm not a political animal.
Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you, and even though we don't agree on the kids stuff, I do agree and respect and encourage your right to be loved and seen for who you are.
I just want to be respected. Yeah. I'm not worried about the love bit.
You're not worried about the love bit?
No.
Yeah, but we need more love in this world.
I agree to that, but if we start respecting, love will follow it.
You reckon?
I believe so. As long as my family love me, that's the most important thing to me.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, cheers.
Cheers.
Lovely to meet you.